Hello everyone, Nordic Beast here, and welcome back to the Shipyard. So, this is my 30th episode, and I thought I would do something special. Now, I originally wanted to do something in multiplayer, but unfortunately, because of me working nights, whenever I get on, even internationally speaking, nobody is ever on. Just everyone seems to be asleep or off doing something or whatever. So, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do something multiplayer like I would have liked to. So instead I decided to build a new shipyard, and actually I built a new world around the shipyard. So from now on, whenever I'm doing any form of shipyard episode, it'll be here. These will also be my testing grounds, and I think I will probably put my foundation shipyard here as well, just so I can do foundation episodes here, which I still want to do more in the future. I just haven't really come across any mechanics in the game that I really wanted to explore in depth. So anyway, first off, this here is actually my base from my one solo survival episode I put out, just testing survival. And I really liked it. I thought it was a good set piece for here. And not only that, I think it's a good starting base. I think it would make for a nice, like, easy start base. So these little guys here, which are all the same, is my basic housing unit. They all say basic housing unit 1, address 001. But the idea is, I figured easy housing units that people could put in like a server or something like that, easily built, doesn't take a lot of resources, and could, you know, again, just do basic housing. Now these ones are designed for atmosphere, like oxygen atmosphere only, because it requires oxygen directly from the outside. I may make some ones for you know, like planets without atmosphere or anything like that, or planets with low oxygen, so I can still use vents to draw in atmosphere to put in an atmosphere on the inside. So, but these, like I said, just for oxygen. Now, if you take a look, I did not have room on the inside for a timer block, so timer block is out here, and programming block is in here. Now, these seats, basically a living room, and this is supposed to represent a TV. I don't really have a TV, so I use the text box. Each one of these houses is designed for 2 occupants, so there's 2 rooms. They both have like the same stuff in it. They're roughly the same size, give or take. They have unconveyed cargo containers. The quote-unquote corridor is a bed, and then a text TV here. This is the other bedroom, which I think might be slightly smaller. I'm not sure. Okay, I gotta point something out I've noticed weird. This. You guys hear that noise? It makes me sound like one of the space bugs. Over here, I'm fine. And tick, 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 tick. I don't know what that's all about. So then in here, we have the med bay and the cryopods. And that's it. And there's just the 2 cryopods. So that's just what's on the inside. Now, originally, it was designed more like what you see here. Like how it's just all very flat and angular. And then I added on. I added the front porch-like area you see here, and then all the equipment on the outside to run the place, which is the small reactor. I've got the battery, and then up top I have solar panels to power everything. So the idea is you don't have to use the reactor, but if something happens, like if the solar panels are destroyed or the battery is destroyed, you still have the reactor to run on if need be. Or if you expand the house, say to add any kind of production capacity, you can run off the nuclear reactor as well. Now it does have this single cargo container just for community cargo, and it has a landing bay up here with a connector. And my idea was I wanted to make sure everything in this place was accessible on foot. I found that very important, just in case you couldn't fly for any reason. You can always just walk up here. And same thing for the house. Bam. So there we have it. Now, while we're down here, I wanted to show off something that I recently put together. This is called the Pathfinder. I don't build very many atmospheric craft, and this one is loosely based on the Warhammer 40k Space Marine land speeder. I think they call it. It was like an attack vehicle. And if you look at like the general shape, it's roughly based on that, but it's obviously not the same thing. So it runs on 3 batteries. Once I'm level flight here, you'll see it. Yeah, it goes up to 45 minutes. So this thing can actually fly for quite some time without having to worry about recharging or any of that, but it's got a connector on the bottom, so you can easily dock it and recharge. And it does run off of one small reactor that was there on the nose, which is a jumpstart reactor, as well as you could recharge the batteries off it. Just, it would take a while. So in a multiplayer server, that wouldn't be too bad. You just hit recharge and leave the server for the night, and by the next day it would be all charged up for you. So, but I really like it. I consider it like a flying Jeep. I might make like an elongated version with seats, just to, you know, have a bit of a more useful design. There we go. Yeah, but I really like that little guy. I think it's a cool design. Alright, so next up, we're going to go into orbit. First, I'm going to show my comm satellite, and then my station, so I'll see you guys in a second. Okay, so this is my comm sat. Now, it's just your standard, like, communication satellite. And, of course, I don't have, like, the stationary space stations turned on, so even a space station requires thrusters just to hold its place. Now, I may have to rework this because I do want to add another laser antenna, but now that I'm looking, I could add one right here. That antenna might be a little bit of an issue, but probably not much. But it is completely remote controlled if you want. You can always link into it and fly. It's got a little camera there. But the idea is just to be able to dock it somewhere, like sitting here. It runs off of 5 batteries and solar panels, and that's it. Like, it is purely solar and battery powered. And then, yeah, you just park it near a planet just for comms. Now, what's funny is, just because of where I put my shipyard over there, and where my base is down there, they are actually just out of 50k range. So I needed to put something in there, and I designed this. And I'm quite pleased. I'll probably post the blueprints of this too once I rework it a little bit to add in a second laser antenna. Because just one doesn't really help all that much. I need two. I need to be able to link to it and then link somewhere else. So, alright, now we're going to go over to the shipyard. And welcome to the shipyard. So I made this design based off of somewhere in between what was in the NID server in the second season and what my old shipyard used to be for a long time. I wanted it to look something architecturally still much like what I've built before, such as like the big hangar shape and all the important bits being external, like all the production parts, which, if you're curious, the reason I do that is in multiplayer servers, it honestly doesn't matter if your stuff is outside your base, as long as it's heavily armed. The big thing about that is armor really doesn't do all that much, because once somebody gets past your defenses, like your weapons, they're just going to grind through everything anyway. So it's really not that big a deal. The only thing I can think of is if you really wanted to spend the resources to make a maze. That's about it, but even then, that's just an inconvenience more than anything else. So putting it externally, instead of having to worry about building it internally and having to build around everything, seems to work out pretty well. And then I went with the armed look on the shipyard, just like I have before. And then, if you look in here, alright, I'm not quite done with this yet. Everything is conveyed, but I don't have oxygen yet, and I still need lights and things like that, so it's not a lot of work, but I still need to get some work done. Hi, Wanda. I haven't put you in a video in a while. Let's turn on my light. And my prospector over there, which was in a video recently. Now, I want to talk about this area here first. This I designed actually because of Lord Wiseman, so thank you, Wiseman. He is working on a ship that I nicknamed the Whale Shark because it's got this big open maw underneath it and kind of a nose, and it's designed to be hydrodynamic. Like, it's supposed to look like an actual ship, as well as a spaceship. And he's got like this big, like double door design like this. This is an airlock for ships, and I think that's a pretty cool idea. But I decided to use that idea and roll with it, and I put guns in here. So it is also it's a checkpoint. It's like a security checkpoint. So all in here is all conveyed, and then up here is going to be the living area once I'm done. I'm probably going to put windows in here, and this kind of looks like an attic. So I just haven't gotten to that part yet, which I will soon. And then I did double pane glass just for the added security. That's something else Lord Wiseman has been doing lately that I really enjoy. So, also, his Whale Shark ship, once he does finish that damn thing, I probably will give it a shipyard episode all of its own. just because it is a very interesting design. I'm very pleased with what he's done with it so far. So you might recognize this too. This is my barge, which is, it's this barge that I moved one of Lord Wiseman's giant ships that inspired us to start building a skyscraper from, actually I think the episode before last of Shipyard. So I think it was 28. And then this here is my projector ship designed for projecting any ship that has this same docking collar to the other side, and you can hold it in place with this as you build. It was originally designed for the Season 2 of the mid server, but I never got around to using it. My shipyard just simply had this bit on there. I probably could have done something like this, but there wasn't really a need for it. So, last thing before I go on to my new builds here is the world down there. Actually, here, I'm just going to go ahead and go to Spectator. This is Thara? I think it's Thara. And this planet actually came out just after planets were released, but before the modding option was there. And it is just beautiful. It is more Earth-like than any of the other planets I've seen so far. Is that? Oh yeah, look at this. So it's mostly ice, which is supposed to be like the oceans, and then you have islands. And I think it is just stunning. Oh, I should have used this. This would have been a cool area to build on. Very flat. So, yeah, I really like Thara, whatever it is. I'll put the link down in the description below. And then these two, let's see if I can figure out which is which here. Alright, this one. Okay, so this one is called Smooth Protoplanet. The idea is it's supposed to be like kind of like a dwarf planet where it's misshapen. Now, it is a little odd. Like, here, if I... Let's see, how high up am I? Pretty high up. Alright. Sometimes it's hard to gauge how high you are. Here we go. When using Spectator. There we go. Alright. So, yeah, as you see, like, everything's on a tilt because of the misshaped, you know, just how misshaped this moon is anyway. So you'll try to straighten yourself out, thinking, oh, here we go, now I'm level, and then you come down, and you're not so level. And you can see how lumpy it is. But that's also what makes it interesting. Look, it's 0.1 Gs. So I'm damn near effectively in orbit, just running and jumping if I wanted. So anyway, this, like, ooh, here we go. Oops, sorry about that. So that is the protoplanet. And this here is, I believe it's called Dwarf Planet. And it's basically like an Earth moon, but it's lumpier. That's the only way I can really describe it. There we go. Oh, apparently I'm flying away. Here we go. So yeah, that's all. It doesn't arc and curve nearly as much. It's just bumpy. That's all. This would actually be really fun for a well-built, like, Jeep or Rover, I think. So, yeah, but I really like this one too because it's different. It's really what it comes down to. And then also this background you see here is by Ass Hunter. I'll put the name down below. I can't recall offhand. So, which all his stuff is just stunning. Oh, and last, you guys probably recognize my jump gate from previous episodes. I wanted to put that in here as well. And here's the kicker. Put my sim speed up. So, yeah, my sim speed's fine. Where's my frame rate? It's hidden behind my... Oh, well, I can... My frame rate is hidden behind DXTari's frame rate. So, I'm still, like, here, I'm getting anywhere from 40 to 60 when it's bouncing around for me. Like, even over here, 60. About 40 here. You know, come over to the ComSat. Yeah, it stays at 60. So, which I have it capped at 60. Usually, just about everything I do in Space Engineers now is above 30 frames per second. Almost no matter how laggy or how much stuff I have. Let me shut that off. So, I gotta say, they're really doing a great job optimizing Space Engineers lately. So, alright, first off, before... going. I'm babbling on now. This is my atmospheric expansion for the Valkyrie. I got to toying around with atmospheric stuff with the Pathfinder I showed you earlier, and decided, you know what, it's about time I try to make something at least semi-attractive for the Valkyrie that's atmospheric. And this is what I came up with, and it actually works surprisingly well. Let's go ahead and take a blueprint. Go ahead and come down. Am I here? Yes, I am. Alright. Let's go ahead and paste that. As you see, I do have I didn't have dampeners on. Oh, interesting. That could have been an issue. But yeah, as you see, this thing actually flies. I was playing around with this earlier, testing it, and then as I was coming down, boom, just like scraped off the ground. It was so bad. So with this, it does have full directional thrust except for up. But it is quite heavy. As you see, it's about almost 45,000 kilograms. There we go. So you want to be careful when landing, like that. Am I okay? Yeah, alright, good. I didn't hit as hard as I thought. But, I mean, it flies alright. It's not bad. And this is much more practical than my hydrogen thrust design. There we go. So you see, it's down. And I have flown this thing from ground to orbit and then come back. Yeah. Let's go back in here. As you see, my speed is going up. I am accelerating away. And like I said, it works just fine. And if you look, planetary gravity is 1G. So this is, for anyone who loves my Valkyrie design, likes to fly it around, well, now you can fly it around in an atmosphere. So I will be posting the blueprint for that here soon as well. And it has a beacon, so if you do fly, say, from ground to orbit, and you have to leave it somewhere random, you can always leave it with the beacon on. So, yeah. Alright, let's go ahead and get rid of this. And we'll go back to orbit real quick, and I will show you actually the next atmospheric thing I have been working on. If I can fly here. Whoop. How about... There we go. Alright. The Mimir. This big guy right here that looks kind of like the atmospheric shuttle from Avatar. That wasn't really my intention, but, you know, similar concepts end up with similar designs. So the idea of this design is, well, at least this one, this isn't fully refined yet, but it's about as close as I'm going to get without making multiple variants, is meant to be just, you carry like physical vehicles back here to be able to land on a planet and drop it out. Which, by the way, I have actually rolled a vehicle out the back upon landing, which I thought was pretty fun. I had one of my Jeep designs back here, and as I was coming down to land, I just let it roll out the back. It's quite fun, and that's what this landing gear is here for. Anything big enough to actually fit in here should be able to touch this, so you can lock it in place with that. Now, I do have seats, and I do want to make a design that's going to be 2 levels. So up here will be seats, and then down here will be seats. And it'll be just a pure personnel version, and I'll make a cargo version too. So I don't feel like I'm blowing out the back here, so I'm going to just cycle through these properly. It runs off of a bunch of small nuclear reactors. Originally I had it battery powered, but I thought that would be a poor idea. You know, just in case of emergency and all that, reactor power is probably a better way to go. Also because I decided to put in that jump drive you saw in the hangar bay. So these are the crew quarters. Come up here, we've got just the 2 pilot seats, and then we have 2 spare seats back here, and then this is just like the general equipment area and oxygen and all that. So it flies relatively well in space. I mean, it's transport. It's not supposed to fly over the top well. So it does drift a bit. In fact, I got into an argument with somebody on the, because today's Thursday, on the update video, talking about, at the end of the video they said, like as a catchphrase, you know, turn your dampeners on, which is fine, but considering that dampeners are garbage now, they don't do what they used to, which allowed you to fly a bit more like what you see in other space sims. I know it's not realistic, But Space Engineers is far from realistic, so I would rather have my old ×5 dampeners, or ×10. I don't know, I like the ×5 better. I feel that's a good mid-balance. But right now in space it's ×1, so like fighters drift and float all over the place, and yeah, and so with big transports like this, again, side to side is the least amount of thrusters, and I end up just sliding everywhere side to side. So, alright, I'm not going to fly all the way down to the planet. Instead, I will go ahead and go back to this and, you know, prove you guys that this works. Whoop. Alright. Come on, scroll away. Scroll away. There we go. Boop. Now, it's not the... It doesn't... Even with the 2 large thrusters, it does not have the best vertical takeoff, but it does work. Shut that off. Or close that, not shut it off. Doesn't really matter here. I'm not going to get blown out the airlock because of air pressure this time. So, alright. As you see, it does actually fly. So with this one, you want to be a bit more gentle when landing, and same thing with takeoff. It runs off of 3 small atmospheric thrusters back here. You see there's 2 by the door, and then there's 4 up top. So, alright, you're going to want to accelerate, and you can go ahead and press space to help thrust vertically a bit more to, you know, get your speed up. Now, as you gain altitude, of course, your ion thrusters are going to take over, and you've got the 2 big ion thrusters on the back. So you can, as you see, my atmospheric speed is going up, and it will maintain this way for pretty much the entire way up, but you cannot go vertical unless you're trying to use the atmospheric thrusters to go vertical, but that's a big pain in the ass, so it's best just to go on a nice, decent angle like this, and then once you're out of the influence of gravity, you can jump away if you want. So I actually haven't checked. What's the jump range? 2,000 kilometers, good. If you don't know, the jump drive, actually, as your weight goes up, it's dependent on your weight to how many jump drives you have. So, like, one of my ships was about 5 million kilograms, and even though it had a bunch of jump drives, its range was only slightly over 2,000 kilometers, I think. So it, you know, it can only take so much mass so far. So I really love this design. This one I am so happy with. Like, I just look at it and it looks like a functioning spacecraft with weird landing gear. Which, by the way, the connector's on the bottom, if you guys didn't notice that. So I still need to put, like, cameras and things like that on here. If you guys see any other refinements I should make to this, let me know. I didn't put a beacon on it. I didn't really think it needed one. I mean, it's got its antenna back there. So, yeah, I think that's about it for this episode. Let me know what you guys think down below. What would you like to see me do in the future? Especially with my shipyard and all that. You guys come up with some ideas or challenges, which the only one I've done so far from the past was making an A-10-like vehicle, which I, in turn, did make something that was really hard-hitting and relatively heavily armed, but it was actually based off the P-61 Black Widow, which was my Black Widow 2 design, which I still like that fighter. I haven't flown that in a while. I should give that a try. So yeah, if you think of anything for the future, let me know. It would really help me progress in the series a bit more. And I found that I really enjoy commenting back to commenters. I find it quite enjoyable, especially as of late. Just people have come up with some really interesting ideas or had interesting things to say. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you liked the episode, please hit that like button. I'll see you guys next time.